Hi, and welcome to this third lesson here in this series of 7 lessons of things we can do to improve our practice in the practice room. 7 things that go wrong that we should focus on to improve our practice and improve how things are going here for us. I'm Clay from thecelloonline. If we're meeting for the first time, thanks for visiting the channel. If you haven't downloaded the PDF yet, go to the website so that you can follow along with me there. It's a free download for you. Just visit thecello.online and it's right there. So this topic is near and dear to my heart, and I've mentioned it many times here on the channel because it is so important, and that's why it's here in the first half of this lesson early on, and that is slow version, like how to practice slow. I've mentioned it before when I've talked about the difference between the way students practice when they're practicing slow and the way professionals practice when they're practicing slow. And another way of thinking about it that I've heard people say is that we just aren't focused on the tone enough when we go slow, or we're not focused on some of the musical details enough when we're going slowly. Practicing slow, and this is so important, so important, okay, is that if I teach you nothing else in our time together here on the channel, and it is that when you are practicing slowly, you have to keep everything intact, right? You're thinking about the end goal, and you're only changing the speed. All right, let me show you an example. So as I mentioned in the first lesson, we're going to be using book 3 to 4 and book 5 to 6 here to give us some examples. So let's go here at the end where it starts to pick up, and we have lots of string crossings. All right, notice that I kept all the note relationships the same. I kept the rhythm intact, okay? I kept my nice tone. A student, okay, or an amateur, when they pick up this piece and they're practicing slow, I've started calling it target practice because they're basically just teaching the left hand to shoot for notes. It might look something like this. And it gets even worse if I'm doing the alternate fingering where I'm doing all the extensions. You get the idea. Practicing this way takes the notes completely out of context, right? I've taken away the tone, I've taken away the rhythm, in some cases I've taken away the pitch, okay? I've certainly taken away the articulation. There's nothing left. It's not the allegro moderato anymore. I don't know what I'm practicing. And this is a huge mistake that students make, okay? You have to slow it down to a tempo where you can have all of those things intact, right? Which is why the metronome is so important, all right? If you want to know which one is my favorite, I have it linked down in the description. So let's go back again. Let's use the alternate fingering. That's how you practice it slow. Even if I went even slower, let's see how slow I can slow it down here. Yes, okay. It doesn't matter. That's way better than the dreaded, I'm going to play all the easy notes fast, okay, and go really slow on the hard stuff. Or let's go over to the Gulterman at the end of book 5. Same thing. Down here, my favorite passage here from this at measure 176, where we have all the triplet string crossings. Right? I'm not even playing them the same rhythm. Yes, I'm like going slowly. And it's like, oh, I got to figure out. Then I go fast, right? Completely out of context. Not lining up the rhythms. Not even playing it slurred, right? It's supposed to be slurred. to turn on the metronome myself so I can be a little bit more connected with my smooth string crossings there. Okay, playing it forte, playing it slurred, playing it connected. That's the only way I'm going to teach this right hand. I think we start the target practice because we're only thinking about teaching this hand, right? And we forget that we have two things here that we're trying to teach. Right? If I want to get there, it's got to start like this. But we have a hard time as students, all right, when we're early on in this cello journey, practicing that way, all right? Appreciating that we're learning so many things. We are teaching ourselves so many things when we practice that way, okay? I think maybe sometimes we get into this mindset that we're not learning very much if we go that slow, all right? Because it doesn't sound like the piece, yes? Well, it doesn't sound like the piece because it's missing the tempo. But remember, that's the only thing it's missing, right? I'm only missing that one aspect. And the more you can do that, okay, and this is why I say slow version, right? The version of the piece, like what is the Golterman concerto just at a slower tempo? This is not Golterman concerto, right? This is Golterman concerto, just slower, okay? So, gotta focus on the tone. You got to think about the end result with just a different speed. Yes, all right. Keeping all that stuff intact. You got to practice things in context. This is so important in the practice room. All right. So what's on our checklist here for this one? Yes, it's kind of short actually, and that is, well, I say it's kind of short. You could shorten it to just, did I play the slow version, right? Do I have everything intact? But what are those things intact? Did I play the bowing, right? So you're looking at it going, okay, I'm playing it slow. Maybe I need to turn on the metronome like I said. So if you want the individual things on the checklist, they are, did I keep the articulation intact? Like slurred, staccato, tenuto, whatever, accented, okay? Did I keep the rhythm intact? Oh, that's a biggie, right? So we're not stopping and starting, okay? Doesn't matter how slow you go. So, articulation, rhythm, and of course, tone. Am I always getting the full tone, the full sound of the cello, regardless of the dynamic? Now, this one here at measure 176, it happens to be forte, all right? But even if it was like something that was fast and it was piano, when I'm going slow, I would still practice at forte because I want to teach this hand, I want to give this hand all the information that it needs, all right? Because you can always back it off later, okay? So usually when we're going slow, we're playing a little bit louder because we're trying to teach this hand to go fast, yeah? And realize that I'm making the notes longer, but look how fast my right hand is going. And I think that's part of why it works, is that I'm still teaching, even though I'm making the notes longer, this is still going fast. So tone, articulation, rhythm, all intact. And of course, intonation intact, right? But we were always practicing that before. That's what we're doing when we're doing the target practice with the left hand. Yes? Okay. All right. So make sure you're following along, and I will see you in the next lesson.